You're listening to Eating for Eden, Episode 4. When it comes to doing something about climate change, your food choices matter. Thanks for tuning in to Eating for Eden, a podcast that takes a food-first approach to climate action. I'm your host, Jessica J. Schroeder, and I am passionate about food that tastes good and does good. I'll guide you with practical tips and help you thoroughly enjoy your food along the way. When people ask me about what I eat, I don't have an exact answer. But I typically say something like, I eat predominantly vegan, or whole food plant-based. Years ago, did I ever expect this would one day be my response? Nope, not a chance. Am I surprised to be predominantly vegan? You bet. I was the one who wanted bacon and sausage on her pizza. I imagined I would die if I ever became lactose intolerant. I even entered a meat lover's chili into a cook-off thinking, who puts beans in chili? Oh, irony of ironies. Beans are now one of my favorite foods. I've heard it said that it's easier to change a man's religion than his diet. I agree, and I don't. I agree in the sense that I understand this meaning. We human beings have a vice grip on a handful of things in life. Typically, these are politics, religion, and our food preferences, in that ascending order. I also agree in the sense that someone else cannot change a person's diet. Just like in religion or politics, or any other sphere for that matter, a person must decide for herself that she wants to change. Only then are such mountains to be moved. Yet, this mountain may be more of a sand dune. This is where I disagree. I disagree with the near impossible difficulty communicated in this statement because diet, while indeed deeply seated and complexly storied, is far more easily changed than we may think. Why? Because taste is habit. Full stop. Taste is habit. Setting politics and religion aside, what we eat is largely a matter of preference formed over time by a series of choices. We form habits from those choices, and preferring convenience, ease, and hits of dopamine, we choose the same things time and again. But we don't have to. I mentioned earlier that I used to think I'd die if I ever found out I'd developed a lactose intolerance. Give up dairy? Not today. Not ever. Or so I thought. Now, to keep myself honest, I'm technically not dairy-free. I do enjoy a croissant from time to time, or a slice of Roman-style pizza from the best bakery on the planet, but these are occasional, intentional indulgences. And the dairy I choose to eat must be out of this world worth it. But hang on, how did I go from being afraid of needing to give up cheese to actively avoiding it, as well as ice cream, cow's milk, and butter, and without much of a problem? In short, I changed my habits. I'm not saying this was easy, and it certainly didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. I made little changes over time that, over several years, amounted to massive changes. Little steps, if we keep taking them, turn into leaps and bounds. And that's the case for good or ill. That's right. Taste is habit. Let me give you an idea of how my tastes have changed over time. In high school and college, some of my favorite foods included bacon, Greek yogurt, ice cream, cheesecake, lamb, Romano cheese, sushi, blue cheese, calzones, butter-laden pumpkin breads and pound cakes, and the list goes on. Now, my favorite foods include avocado, kale, sourdough bread, homemade chickpea hummus, arugula, tofu-based feta, homegrown tomatoes, lettuce wraps made with tempeh, royal Corona beans, oats, pistachios, and more. Not to say that I did eat any of my now favorite foods earlier, but they were more or less things I ate because I knew they were good for me and liked them well enough. But if it came as a choice between the first and the second list, If it came down to pure taste and not an Epicurean, what will my future self think, I'd probably have opted for the things on the first list. Here's another example. I have always loved peanut butter, but the first time I tried natural peanut butter, I was confused and probably not a little bit disgusted. I was a Jiffy girl. As a kid, when I got home from school, I would get a huge spoonful of Jiffy, sit on the couch, and slowly suck on that trans fat and sugar-laden spoon while watching cartoons. Now, I'm buying organic, creamy Valencia peanut butter, just peanuts and salt, and I can't get enough. Today, if I even get presented with decent quality, trans fat-free peanut butters that contain any sugar or palm oil added, I'm offended. My taste buds have completely shifted. Night and day. Yeah, I know it's just peanut butter, but come on, you know it's a big deal. Anyone who's ever had arguments with a spouse about whole wheat pasta will understand. The takeaway here? It takes time for our taste buds to adapt. But oh, can they ever. So, let's assume you're interested in making some dietary changes. You don't want to go on a quote diet, and you don't want to just another fad. You want to really and truly make sustainable changes that will stick. How do you do it? I'll give 4 tips. And while they may work best taken in this order, feel free to start with whichever resonates most with you. Tip number 1. Start with what you like. Emphasize eating more of the climate-friendly foods you already like. Low-emission foods that are also super healthy for our bodies include vegetables, legumes, fruits, whole grains, and nuts and seeds. Do you really like sweet potatoes, mushrooms, berries, rolled oats, refried beans, polenta? Make a list of the plant foods that you already enjoy and plan out how you can increase your consumption of these while cutting back on the higher emitters like meat and dairy. Additionally, what plant foods do you like that may have a better option on offer? Where might you level up, so to speak? For instance, if you are also a peanut butter lover, take a look at the ingredients on your favorite jars. Do they contain additional oils, such as palm oil? Palm oil production is responsible for a significant amount of deforestation, destroying both forests and valuable soils like peat that have held onto loads of carbon. If your favorite peanut butters do contain these additional oils, there's good news. You can keep your love for peanut butter. Simply choose a peanut butter that contains only peanuts and salt. It may take some time to get used to because taste is habit, but before long, you'll end up enjoying the better stuff even more. Trust me, I've been through it. I will add that while the palm oil discussion is certainly complex, it's a good rule of thumb to seek to avoid refined vegetable oils in general. A group of crops known as oilseeds are widely grown to stuff into processed foods as well as household products. Overall, eating less processed foods and emphasizing whole plant foods is a healthier way to eat, both for our bodies and for the earth. Tip number 2. Choose an alternative to try. Start small. Don't try to overhaul your kitchen in a weekend. Maybe this looks like swapping out the milk you buy from cow's milk to one of the plant-based alternatives. Maybe it's using nutritional yeast instead of Parmesan cheese. Maybe it's opting for a lower emission meat like poultry over beef. Or opting for a plant-based meat alternative or minimally processed, high-protein products like tofu or tempeh. Once you get used to one change, choose another alternative to introduce. The goal here is to make changes you can sustain, changes that become habits. Don't lose one by trying to add another. Take an approach that can build over time. Tip number 3, introduce something new, or something at least less common in your diet. This can look like increasing the diversity of vegetables you consume and making them a larger share of your plate. Have you tried lacinato or Tuscan kale? Bok choy? Roasted cauliflower? Purple sweet potatoes? It could also be adding in whole grains or legumes to round out your meals and rely less on meat. Have you tried quinoa? Millet? Cranberry beans? Butter beans? Introducing new items is a great way to get both curious and creative with changing your taste buds and eating habits. When I think back on how I ate in high school, I consumed a lot of animal-based products and a lot of saturated fat. As much as I wanted to like what I knew were healthier foods, I craved the fat and sweet of, say, a cheese Danish over a bowl of overnight oats and berries. However, once I introduced more whole plant foods into my diet and my body got used to eating more nutritious foods, it became easier to choose the better options. They became delicious to me, and I actually wanted them. While I won't get deep into this concept here, it's at least worth noting that our gut microbes play a large role here too, that is, in our cravings. In short, the gut bacteria that feed off the foods we eat want to survive. For instance, if we eat lots of sweet potatoes, lentils, and kale, the gut bugs that thrive on those foods will vie for survival, making it more likely we'll have a taste for those foods. On the other hand, if we consume a fair amount of meat and dairy, the gut bugs that thrive on those foods will guide our cravings. Finally, tip number 4. Find delicious ways to eat foods you may not have liked before. For me, this was finding tasty ways to eat legumes. Maybe you're like I was in the past and couldn't understand why beans were in chili. Mushy, flavorless kidney beans did not appeal to me. And honestly, I don't see why they would appeal to anyone, even now, as a self-proclaimed bean lover. I believe that the key to changing our food habits is making our food delicious. While there may be some small aspect of willpower involved in eating something until you develop a taste for it, there's far more room for making that food delicious to your current palate than we may initially think. I'll plan to provide additional tips for making plants delicious in a future episode, so stay tuned. But for now, I'll just say, any food can be delicious. If you think you don't like something, try preparing it a different way. Ask around for recipes, especially from friends you know eat and enjoy those things. Start trying new recipes and see what sticks. Remember this encouraging thought. Taste is habit, and habits can be changed. Yes, it's going to take time to change the habits of your taste to go from preferring one way of eating to preferring another, but take heart. Your taste buds and your habits are more malleable than you may think. And you, dear listener, are braver than you think. Start where you are, do what you can, and build from there. Thanks for listening to Eating for Eden. If you found this episode informative or inspiring, please consider sharing it with a friend. Climate change is an issue we all need to tackle together, so let's invite others to journey along with us as we continue the conversation and start taking action. Until next week, friends, take care.